Bum 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 bum. The Peter Dislike Show. Bum 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 bum. So yesterday, I made 2 videos about pondering really extremely unlikely events, right? So for example, what's the probability that by doing something just slightly differently in your everyday life, you could change world history in some way, right? Prevent a terrorist attack, or maybe even contribute to one unknowingly, right? What's the probability that you'll marry somebody who's your best match in the entire world, right? Maybe even in the universe, or in the entire history of all humans ever or to come, right? And even though those are very unlikely events, the fact that life goes on all around us, right? Trillions and trillions of activities go on all around us, kind of implies that those things do happen from time to time, right? We just don't know it. And you'll never know it, right? You'll never know if what you chose to wear one day contributed to 9/11 happening, right? Our science has not improved to the point that we can test for that easily, right? And although you might know that you married somebody suboptimal, you won't know if you married the perfect match. You'll just know that you had a good marriage, right? But you're still going to be not that much better off compared to somebody who had a decent marriage that might not be top of the world, right? So let me talk about why I even thought about this. When I was in 8th grade, my dad had lost a fortune in the stock market. This was during the time of the dot-com bubble. And I pondered what it would be like to always make the right trade day after day after day after day. And I calculated that if you started with even just a few cents, within months you could be the world's richest person in the world. And then it hit me, why don't we just play this game? People play the lottery anyway, right? This game is probably not as bad as the lottery, right? The lottery is just a tax, right? At least if you're just guessing on the stock market, in theory you still have a positive return, right? Because hopefully in the long term the markets are positive, right? And the probability of guessing the market correctly, I think you needed to do it 30 days in a row, right? So 1 out of 2 to the power of 30, 1 in a billion roughly. I think it's still worth playing. That's on par with the odds of some lottery games. And at least this game isn't nearly as destructive, right? People would learn about the markets as they go, right? Now, when I was 16 years old, I had a hard time, well, getting back to marrying the right person in the world. I had never dated before, and then I did a calculation one time. I mean, most people do get rejected a number of times right before they go on their first date. And I calculated, I was 16, and I said, well, let's imagine it takes until I'm 26 until I finally go on that first date, right? So roughly, we're talking about 3,500 days in the future. If I just ask a girl out every day for 3,500 days in a row, 1 out of 3,500 is not that bad at all, right? If you play the lottery, right, that's a lot better than winning the lottery. It's probably on par. I used to love to search. I talked about this in other videos. I used to love to search rolls of coins for silver coins, right? Nowadays, if you could have a 1 in 3,500 chance of finding a silver coin in a roll, oh my God, people would be fighting over that roll, right? And so that made me feel better when I did the calculation. And then certain things like I have a little bit of a fear of missing out on various things. I got to admit that. So for example, I'm trying to think where I last did. Sometimes I'll do things just to avoid potential regret in the future, even though it might not be seemingly worthwhile. So for example, I have a tendency to go to events that I might not even want to go to just because, oh my God, what if my future wife really is waiting for me there, right? It might be a 1 in 100 chance, right? Especially the art shows as of late. I've been burning myself out making a lot of bismuth art because, oh my God, what if I didn't make the one thing that's gonna make my name out there, right? Might be a 1 in 1,000 chance, right? Certainly not 1 in a Google like the other ones I talked about, right? What's the probability? Let's say you're married and somebody else is already married, and you go to an event or a party, and all four of you realize that it would be in the best interest of all four of you to just swap spouses, right? What's the probability of that? That probably has happened a few times, right? We have a cultural barrier to doing it, even though it might make sense to do it more often, right? Now, when I was going to school, I sold some of my sperm for money because I was broke at the time. I think I got a couple of gift cards, and then I found out that it was taking up too much time just to go there. And but during the pandemic, I thought about my kids because they would have been 8 or 9 years old at that time, and I thought about them not having a school to go to. Now, in my mind, I often think of them as being half Polish, because in my mind, Polish Idol winner Alicia Janazi is the mother, right? That's who I fantasized about. And so, but they would be, my kids would be like 12 years old right now. So in a few more years, let's imagine 10 more years from now, I sometimes worry if I accidentally get involved with my daughter and not know it, right? There's a probability of that, right? Because chances are she's going to share some similar lifestyles as I do and have similar belief patterns, right? And chances are she's going to live in the United States, right? So what's the probability of? I wouldn't be surprised if that has happened somewhere. Right? Maybe not a father and daughter, maybe more like siblings or cousins, right? All right, just some more probabilities to ponder about. And if you're thinking about playing the lottery, how about try guessing the direction of the stock market for the next 30 days, right? You probably have a better probability of doing that. And it will be a lot less destructive. Your name won't be all over the media. And anyway, good luck on that game. This is the Peter Dislike Show! Bum 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 bum. The Peter Dislike Show. Bum 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 bum.